Well, good morning, dear and wonderful Genesis people. What a tragic few days we have had, which is really just a mirror of a tragic cornerstone and part of our history. I can't dare to speak on behalf of those that have been brutally affected by this and past events, but I can say that, like you, it's impossible not to be deeply wounded by the tragedy and trauma that has raked our nation over these last days. The sheer injustice, the sheer unrighteousness of it all, it's difficult to put words to it. The big question we all have is, well, how do we respond? To simply post epic messages on Instagram isn't necessarily the way forward. However, like you, I'm a Jesus lover. Like you, I'm a Bible guy. So I look to the scriptures for my inspiration and guidance and North Star in these moments. And in Nehemiah, we find a story from antiquity that will empower us, I think, in at least the earliest steps of our response. Nehemiah, as we know, worked with the man, so to speak. He was a cupbearer with the king. And yet something happened, two things happened that transformed him significantly. The one was, it says, when one of my brothers came from Judah with other men, I questioned them about the Jewish remnant which had survived the exile. And they said, those who survived the exile are back in the province and are in great trouble and disgrace. The walls of Jerusalem is broken down and the gates have been burnt with fire. And that text could be describing some of the cities in this incredible nation at this time. And I think what Nehemiah does that's remarkably urgent and remarkably essential is the ability to listen, to heed when the brothers speak. And those brothers could be civic leaders, they could be major political voices, or they could be a friend, a stranger, someone we've met recently. But to understand the heart behind the burning of the gates and the walls of the city that are tumbling down, getting to know the sheer brokenness that these moments produce in all of our hearts, to listen with humility and earnestness is our greatest priority, or at least our first priority. And then secondly, it goes on to say, when I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven, and I said, amongst many things, I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. And our dear precious people, I think the call to prayer, to listen meditatively, reflecting on the Father's heart and the heart and soul of those who are in travail right now, is surely our second most essential response action step. Can we listen? Can we pray? Tomorrow, we, the community leaders of Genesis, are calling our community to prayer and fasting from sunup to sundown. And may God speak to us. May God grant us more profound strategies of action steps and strategic moments. May God speak, and may we hear as we bow ourselves in prayer and fasting. This is a time of great tragedy and trauma. May God grant us wisdom. May God grant us steps. In His precious name.